One Piece chapter 966. Now this was an amazing chapter for what it was, especially considering the setup that we got in the previous chapter with Whitebeard arriving to an island where Roger was. We knew that this chapter was going to be pretty good, and it definitely delivered both in terms of what we wanted and also in what we expected. Given the way Oda writes his story, it was obvious that we were not going to see everything. We also got a huge amount of progression in this chapter, and given what we got, it seems like this flashback is definitely getting closer to its finale. I think we have about 4 or 5 chapters, maybe even more, but we're definitely getting closer to the end of this flashback, and I think this flashback probably ends when Odin dies in Wano. But again, you can never go wrong with showing the older generation, especially when individuals like Whitebeard and Roger are involved. I mean, just having Roger and Whitebeard in this chapter is enough to make anybody hype, you know, just going off of that. So this is a flashback that I think a lot of people are going to revisit, given the fact that this is the only time we've seen people from the old generation in action, as well as how things were during Roger's era. What I also like is the setup that we're getting between Shanks and Blackbeard. Now obviously after reading the chapter, it was obvious that Shanks didn't get the scar here, which was what I thought at first, so more likely he gets it later. But the question here is, when does he actually get the scar? We know it was definitely more than 10 years ago, but I'm definitely intrigued on how this took place, considering that Shanks started to build up his own crew given that Roger died and the Roger Pirates disbanded. But I definitely want to know the context of how it all happened and why it happened, so that's something I'm looking forward to. But let's start from the beginning. Now the chapter starts off with Odin rushing in to fight the Roger Pirates, and here he obviously blitzed through most of the non-relevant members, in which he was about to encounter Scopper and Rayleigh. And I believe this is the first time I've ever seen dialogue with Scopper here, and he was kind of portrayed to be in the same light as Rayleigh, given what Roger said about them being 2 of his best men, which was already kind of obvious going off of their names with Gold, Silver, and Scopper. But seeing him actually say something is a first, because for the most part he didn't say much when he was on screen. Now we also got Odin versus Roger. Now Odin made it very clear that Odin is not on Roger's level, because he was easily blown away by Roger's attack. Now what's kind of interesting here is Roger's fighting style. It seems like he's a full-blown swordsman. Now I always viewed Roger in the same light as Garb, thinking that maybe Roger also used his fist, but maybe Roger is really proficient in many fighting styles, because we also know that he has a gun, so maybe he's also a marksman and he also knows hand-to-hand combat just like Garb. So I think more than likely Roger is an all-rounded fighter, you know, being proficient in many fighting styles. Now even though Odin was overwhelmed, he easily got back up, and Odin himself kind of questioned what Roger's attack was, which seemed to be a flying sword attack, but there might be more there given that Odin was kind of confused, even though Odin is a very powerful swordsman himself. Now we also got an epic clash between Roger and Whitebeard, and here it was very obvious that they were using Ryo, which is why the blades don't even touch, and it's definitely on a different level than anything we've seen before. Now whenever Zoro coats his blade in ornaments, we usually see a little bit of that black aura, but in Whitebeard and Roger's case, their version seems to be overflowing, which shows the level they are at when it comes to Ryo. Again, it really shows that Luffy has ways to go before he can achieve this level, because the shockwave affected the entire island. Now it was said that they fought for 3 days and that they were about equal, which proves that Roger and Whitebeard are pretty much on the same level, and the same can be said for their crews. I mean, seeing 2 of the strongest pirates in history clash was insane, and it also has a different feel from what we get when the Yonkos clash. Now we also got a scene with Shanks, Buggy, and Blackbeard, and Buggy points out that Blackbeard didn't sleep for a few days during the ceasefire that they had. Now I know a lot of theories are going to come out of this, because I think Oda is making steps here into revealing why Blackbeard is special, and I think it's eventually going to lead up to when Shanks gets his scar, because that may be the reason Blackbeard was able to hurt Shanks in the first place. But it really makes you wonder when this happened. Again, definitely more than 10 years ago, and I think Shanks was decently strong when he got the scar. So I'm definitely looking forward to this Blackbeard mystery, because it's definitely one of the biggest ones in the series. Now we also got Odin's transition to the Roger Pirates, and here we learned that Roger actually made it to the last island at the end of the log post 13 years ago, and this island was called Roadstar. Roger had doubts about it being the final island because the needles on the log poses were still spinning, and here we see that Roger actually has some copies of one or maybe several of the 4 road poneglyphs, so more than likely he stole stole it from someone just like Luffy. And here he realized that each stone gave a reference point to a location and came to the assumption that the world government doesn't want anyone to reach Raftel, which eventually leads Roger to recruit Odin for a year because he needs his skills to reach Raftel. Obviously, this didn't sit well with Whitebeard because Odin was pretty much his family at this point, but Whitebeard eventually gave in. And given that Odin was someone who liked adventure, meeting Roger was perfect for him because Roger's goal coincides with Odin's wishes, which then leads to Odin's adventure with Roger. And on Roger's ship, this is where Hiyori was born, as well as Neko and Inu sneaking on board just like they did on Whitebeard's ship, and I believe this is where Momo remembers Roger from. And from here on, Odin assimilates with Roger's crew seamlessly, and they eventually make it to Skypiea. By using the voice of all thing, Roger was able to find the poneglyph there. Now he could listen to the stone, but he couldn't write, and that's where Odin's role came into play. It's just amazing how everything just ties back to Skypiea, and I think this really shows how good Oda is when it comes to long-term payoffs. But this was a pretty good chapter, a lot of progression. I'm definitely looking forward to how things are going to progress from here on out. But comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you guys later. Peace.